Hi, my name's Aeolus.
And I like Super Smash Bros.
Last month I released this video in which I made my own roster for the inevitable Smash 6. A lot of people weren't happy with the roster I made, and normally I wouldn't have bothered going back to it, but some people actually made some good points. Looking back at my roster, I agree that I did make some diabolical choices. I don't regret a thing. So I decided to go back and make a new roster. Now, last time we started with the cuts, but this time we're ending with the cuts and starting with the characters I added. Since I explained why I cut and added who last time already, I won't go into too much depth for some of these characters as I don't want to sound like a broken record. If you want the full explanation, go watch the previous video first and then get back to this one.
So first up are the characters that I added again.
Waluigi, Grotto, Skull Kid, Coffee, Raven Bee, Cyberledge, and Armor Starmie, Drag Ball, Ring Fit Trainee, Chorus Kids, Polygon, Gino, Rayman, Rabbits, Spyro, The Knight, Band, Freddy Fazbear.
These characters are all back in this roster. The only notable difference in this selection is that Palico now is the Monster Hunter Wilds version instead of the Rise version. I did this because I wanted a bit more recent years representation. This leaves 7 characters I added last time that didn't make the cut this time. First up is Sidon. I ended up replacing him with another Zelda character, which we'll get to in a second. Because of this, and me adding another Zelda rep from the Wild era, there was too much representation from that specific era of Zelda games. So I cut Sidon in favor of 2 characters basically. I also reverted Link back to his Breath of the Wild look for the same reason. But I still feel like a Zonai move would work really well in this moveset. I also cut Big Man because I didn't really get the idea that many people cared about his inclusion, and I only added him because I figured that people wanted another Splatoon rep. So instead I ended up giving his spot to a veteran. Taboo also didn't make it this time because I just shoehorned him in at the end of the last one because I needed a more realistic pick than Kratos. I gave his spot to a vet too. Zagreus, I still don't know how to pronounce his name, is being replaced by another character from his series. This is for the same reason as why I changed Palico. I also cut Sonar because out of the indie reps I picked, Sonar is least likely to make it into Smash. I do still think it's a good idea, and I do still want Moist Critical in Smash. As much as it pains me, I'm also cutting Gilgrunt, but believe me, I fought tooth and nail to keep him in, but I felt keeping both him and Spyro was a bit too much.
As long as Spyro's in Smash and he represents both Spyro and Skylanders, I can live with it. It's okay. It's fine.
Lastly, I cut Excitebike because I brought back more retro reps, and I feel like out of all these characters I added, Excitebike has the least moveset potential. With these characters gone, there's 5 spots for newcomers left, as I gave 2 slots back to the vets. But I also ended up adding 2 new Echo Fighters. I know that I said that I didn't want any Echo Fighters, and I still don't, because they are basically reskins, which is the point, yes, but I want Echo Fighters to be more like Ken. Ken is the only Echo Fighter that could count as a full-on fighter. Since we're talking about Echoes, let's start with those.
Hornet.
I added the Hornet as an Echo Fighter to the Knight. The two of them have many similar moves in their respective games, but the Knight is way more tanky and range based, whereas the Hornet is more speed and agility based. I want this difference to be noticeable in Smash. They need to be different enough from each other that they don't feel like reskins of each other.
No Simon Richter situation.
Night Construct.
The Knight Construct is the reason why I reverted Link back to his Breath of the Wild version and I cut Sidon. I added the Construct as I felt there's a lot of potential for a good moveset that takes moves from Link and adds Zonai devices from Age of Imprisonment and Tears of the Kingdom. The Construct would be more focused at keeping enemies at a distance than Link, and his recovery would be the flying mode bird thingy, I guess. But now let's get into the last 5 proper characters I'm adding.
Bandana Waddle Dee.
Last time I didn't add a new Kirby character since I had already given the new slots to others like Gilgrunt or Sonar, but this time I didn't slack on Kirby. I considered adding Magolor and Marks too, but Bandana Waddle Dee is one of the most popular picks for Smash ever, so I went with him. Plus, with him added, the main cast is complete.
Melanoe.
This is the character I added instead of Zagreus. Like I said, I wanted a bit more characters from recent games. Since I still want to play it, I'm not too familiar with Hades 2, but based off of what I have seen already, I feel like Melanoe would be a good substitute for Zagreus, and maybe even better, but that could also just be up to preference.
Chibi Robo.
One of the comments that really stuck out to me mentioned that Smash was never about relevancy, and that one really opened my eyes. I'd mostly made cuts based on series revenue and, well, relevancy, so I added Chibi Robo as a more niche rep. Chibi Robo's series is pretty dead nowadays, but it's beloved by many.
And I needed more first party reps.
Speaking of,
Midna.
now that Sidon's cut, I needed a new Zelda rep, so I went with Midna. Link, Sheik, Zelda and Ganondorf's Twilight Princess designs retired after Smash 4, so now there was no rep for that game. Midna not only has a unique appearance and potential for a great moveset, she's also beloved by many Zelda fans. And for her final Smash, she could maybe transform into a regular God damn! Moving on. Actually, a better idea would probably be for Midna's gimmick to be switching between her forms, regular Midna and Imp Midna. There's already movesets for both of them in Hyrule Warriors. Maybe Nintendo could use that as a reference. Lastly, I'm adding
Master Chief.
If I can't add Kratos, I'm adding Master Chief.
Not only is he more realistic since there's already 2 Microsoft-owned characters in Smash, Halo is also a classic, and many people would be over the moon to see him in Smash. Master Chief would maybe feel a little bit out of place, but I already said that about Freddy Fazbear, and again, Steve also feels out of place and he's in the game, so I don't think it'll matter too much. I think he'll blend in eventually. As for his moveset, he could swap out multiple weapons like the plasma sword and the standard pistol, etc, etc. I feel like that would be really unique. Maybe for his final Smash he could pull out one of the vehicles. Before we move on, here's some characters that almost made the cut. Isaac.
I'm sorry, I tried. I really did. I did my best.
Akira Howard, Crash Bandicoot, Impa, 2B, Gemma, Sia, Tinkaton, Magalore, Marks, and Phoenix Wright. All these characters didn't make the cut because they were either outshined by another character, felt redundant or too similar to another character, or maybe too provocative for Smash Bros.
And now we've reached the main event. Which characters did I cut this time?
Many of my choices stayed the same, but there's quite a couple of differences with the previous roster. Let's go over the cuts that stayed the same first. Like I said last time, the Miis will be fused into one slot and even more customizable. So none of them will be cut technically, but Brawler is the most popular, so let's use him as the face for the Miis.
You should make Hugh Moore as an outfit. No, make him a class.
Daisy, Dark Pit, Dark Samus, Richter, Lucina, and Chrom are all still cut because I didn't want any of the echoes to return, as I've already mentioned.
Maybe Ken can stay. Get the fuck out.
Zero Suit Samus and Dr. Mario are also still out because I didn't want any duplicate characters. Young Link, Toon Link, and Sheet got cut again in favor of the new characters. Rosalina, Bowser Jr., and Piranha Plant were cut in favor of Waluigi. Sephiroth in favor of Geno, and Sora because of the Disney thing. Jigglypuff, Pokemon Trainer, Greninja, and Pichu in favor of Sarah Legend Armor Rouge and Starmie. And Snake, Simon, Terry, Kazuya, Little Mac, Bayonetta, and Duck Hunt Duo are all still out as well.
With that out of the way, let's continue with the cuts that are different this time.
Someone pointed out that Diddy Kong is Donkey Kong's Luigi, and that adding any other Donkey Kong characters over him doesn't work.
So I cut King K. Rool, but Diddy back to Diddy Kong. I meant Diddy Kong.
I also re-added Fox, as someone else pointed out, and I quote, "Cutting Fox from Smash is like cutting off Justin Timberlake's ball sack."
I couldn't have said it better myself.
I cut Fox originally because his series is dead, but I failed to recognize the legacy that Star Fox has, both in and out of Smash, so I put Fox back in. However, I still cut Falco and Wolf, as I only had so many slots to give back to the vets. Another sacrifice I had to make is cutting one Animal Crossing character to bring back a different rep. This was a very hard decision, as both Villager and Isabelle are iconic. After going back and forth for a while, I decided to cut Villager and keep Isabelle. Isabelle is a fan favorite and arguably the most popular Animal Crossing character, and their movesets are both pretty similar, so it's not like we're throwing away a completely unique character.
To that one person in the comments, Isabelle is not an echo!
I also re-added Mega Man, Shulk, and Ness. Mega Man was a cut I made that people weren't happy with at all. Apparently he's more popular amongst the Smash community than I originally thought, so I added him back. He was one of the last cuts I made in the original roster anyways, so I didn't really mind putting him back in. I agree that he fits really well in the roster, and I honestly cannot tell you why I cut him in the first place. Shulk was also a more popular pick to bring back. I wasn't going to at first, but I ended up putting him back in thanks to his Monado Arts gimmick, which is more unique than Pyra Mythra's switching mechanic, which has been a thing since Melee. Though I still think the Pyra Mythra represent the franchise better, but that could just be me. Putting Shulk back in over them was probably the better choice.
So I re-added Ness.
Me cutting Ness pissed off a lot of people, which I was fully expecting. But I cannot deny the legacy that Ness carries with him, so I ended up caving and brought him back.
I'm still cutting Lucas though. And I don't want any complaining, I cut Gilgrunt to bring Ness back. I'm sorry, Gilgrunt.
I also ended up swapping Byleth with Ike. Someone pointed out that the roster needed more tanks, so I put Ike back in. But also because people like him more than Byleth. Oh yeah, BT Dubs, Corrin and Roy are still out. Pitt's back because of the same reason as Fox being back. Smash was never about relevancy. The Kid Icarus franchise isn't nearly as successful as some other franchises on the roster, but I failed to remember while I was making the previous roster that with Pitt's inclusion in Smash Brawl, his series got a semi-revival and even got a new game. So in hindsight, I should have just kept Pitt in the first place, but he's back now. I couldn't get Palutena back though, unfortunately, there weren't enough slots.
Too bad for you.
Lastly, I put the Ice Climbers back in. Ice Climbers like Mega Man was one of the last cuts I made last time, so bringing them back was an easy choice. But we're not done yet, because there's still a character left. I wanted a nice round roster of 70 characters this time, and we're at 71, Wii Fit Trainer is out. Since I'm keeping Ring Fit Trainee, I figured it's okay to let Wii Fit Trainer go, but she got really close to staying. Like really close. I did not want to cut her at all. To many people, Wii Fit Trainer is an easy cut because she's a joke inclusion, but I honestly think she's a great addition to the roster. Wii Fit is iconic, and including her gives the Wii era of games more representation. But I realized that in a roster that doesn't have everyone anyways, keeping both Wii Fit Trainer and adding Ring Fit Trainee is a little redundant. And there we have it, the perfecter Smash 6 roster. I really tried to make as good of a roster as I could this time, but let's be real. No roster cuts are gonna make everyone happy. No matter what you try, every character is someone's favorite, someone's main. It is the curse that a franchise like this will carry for the rest of its existence. Either continue to grow the roster of Ultimate and watch as it becomes too cluttered and lose its magic, or cut the roster in half and face the backlash of the fan base. But what do you think of this roster? Is it better than the last one, or do you think I somehow did a worse job? Let me know in the comments, and let me know what characters you would cut and or add. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and watching some of my other content. I got loads of videos like this on the way, so stay tuned. Before I go, as always, a big thanks to To NoWare for lending me their music. That is all for now. I've been Aeolus. Until we meet again.